Thank you very much, sir, for I think presenting it within the available time allocated to you. And we also appreciate the detailed explanation that you've given on the concept of Ijara. So we have a series of questions that have been sent to us, and it will also suit us to know that we have people who joined both within Nigeria and outside Nigeria in order for them to actually listen to this particular presentation. So, sir, we may likely give some people the mic to actually speak if as a form of remark. Let me see if I can pick one or two people. Let me give Mr. Bashir Oshudi the ability to talk. Mr. Bashir, sir.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Brother Bashir.
Yeah, thank you very much for your lecture. Really appreciate this. And we always learn from you. You're one of the leaders in the market, so always learn from you. We appreciate. I patiently listened through the session from the beginning to the end, because I also needed to learn a few more things about Ijara structures. And most importantly, I actually truly appreciate the fact that you talked about the buyback, or what looks like a buyback option, right? I'm knowing very well that you cannot ordinarily buy back, so we do not do repo in Islamic finance. However, there could be cases where there's an improvement, just like you mentioned, where there's an improvement on the assets that then allows you to, repurchase that assets, which is fantastic. I mean, it's one of those things that we all remember most of the time, and so, I think it's a fantastic one. And more importantly, I enjoyed the model, the one on the family owned fund sukuk. I mean, considering the fact that family owned fund took about 5 roles in the sukuk, right? And which also makes it extremely interesting. Because most of the time we always feel that you need several other parties rather than one particular party. So we've actually learned from you. We'll keep learning from you. However, I have one question. You talked about Arbun. I'm trying to ask now, should I talk about to just quickly differentiate Arbun from Amijidea? You looked at Arbun as some kind of NS money. I know scholars have battled over this over time. And at the end of the day, in 2013, 14, thereabout, the CBN came up with a guideline on Amijidea. So I don't know if you want to talk a little more about this, Arbun and Amijidea, which is NS money, which is like security deposits, basically. They play similar function. However, they could still be different, but overall, it's a fantastic discussion that you're giving us today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bashir Oshodi, for your contribution.
Okay,
and
so
your kind word.
Before you answer the question, if I can also give Alaji Bintube the mic to also talk.
Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you, sir.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Ismail, I will penalize you. I wanted to remain quiet. Assalamu alaikum. Tairu, thank you very much and well done. With all sense of humility, I'm very, very proud of you. You are one of those that, he talked about toolbox. While we were trying to set up Islamic finance in Nigeria, I think people like Tairu are some of our toolbox that we used to do all this technical work, all the technical structuring and all these things. And we use them extensively. Himself, my colleagues in Jais Bank, and other institutions like Taj Bank, who are the people that really brought about the awareness of non-interest finance in Nigeria. So well done, and I would say keep the flag flying and don't rest on your horse. Secondly, it's a call for all participants here, and we thank you for your time, to please, let's try to increase the awareness. I think it's lack of awareness that is still slowing down the growth of non-interest finance in Nigeria. There are a certain percentage of people, institutions from both sides, whether you like it or not, they are opposed to it, and there's nothing. But majority of people, once they understand it, once you simplify it, they will embrace it. And therefore, talking about simplicity, for experts like Atahiru, Dr. Bashir, and others, as much as possible, try to simplify the structures. Don't make it too simplistic, but simplify it without compromising compliance issues. Lastly, I would like to use this forum, like Atahiru said, the Family Homes Sukuk Fund Series 2 is coming soon, inshallah. And we want everybody to be ready and also to pass the words to all the relevant stakeholders. So once again, thank you very much, Atahiru. Thank you very much, One17 Capital. Thank you very much, Ismaila, and thank you very much for all participants that were able to spare their valuable time to participate in this. May the Almighty Allah help us to continue to advance the course of non-interest finance in Nigeria, to make it beneficial to all, irrespective of race or religion in Nigeria. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir.
You can unmute me. You can mute me now.
Okay, sir. Umar. Okay, so we have some questions that have been forwarded. So maybe I should quickly go through those questions before we can come into verbal remarks. Number one, someone was asking if do you classify rent to own contract under, where do you classify rent to own contract under Islamic Finance?
Okay, thank you so much. Now, with respect to rent to own, is considered as Ijara, but we have to make sure that the contract of rent to own abide by all the necessary rules and regulations in relation to Sharia. If, for instance, in that particular contract of rent to own, it says that you are going to continue renting, and at the end of that rent to own, they are going to sell the house to you, making the two contracts in one will not fly Sharia-wise. But if they are going to put it as rent to own and say that your last rentals that you are going to pay, if you pay the last rentals, lessor hereby donate the ownership of that particular house or asset to you, then Sharia-wise is accepted. And it is also in the IOFI with respect to how it is going to be transferred from the lessor to the lessee based on their three options they provided in IOFI. This rent to own can also pass it, but the legal documents of that rent to owns must be sure that it has been reviewed by a competent Sharia advisor that will say, yes, all the necessary loopholes that are in the hire purchase are being taken care of with respect to that. So it can also be classified as Ijara Muntahiya Bitamlik. Thank you.
So the second question here is talking about, since by Mr. Okay, don't let me mention the name, that since the Ijara is governed by the Sharia, is it only open to the Islamic community?
The entire Islamic bank activities and the entire contracts of Islamic finance are not restricted alone to the Muslim alone. I give you example. When we are talking about the organizations or the countries that have been issuing sukuk, in 2014 specifically, we have UK that came and raised 200 million pounds. When they opened and closed their subscription, they were able to get 11 times of what they came. About 2.2 billion were subscribed. So does that mean that 2.2 billion that were subscribed were only Muslim that subscribed it in UK? No, definitely there are many. We also have Hong Kong. They have only about 2% as Muslim population. But when they came and raised their sukuk, it was actually oversubscribed by about twice. We have South Africa. They have about less than 30% as Sharia as a Muslim population, but they also issued sukuk and it was highly patronized. Here in Nigeria, we witnessed actually even this beginning of the Jaiz Bank. Some of the earlier first customers of Jaiz Bank when they opened doors for operations were actually people from the Anambra and other region and non-Muslim. but yet they were the first customers actually that were entertained. When federal government of Nigeria came and raised Sukuk, actually, over 70% of the Sukuk issuances or of the Sukuk subscription came from the conventional bond investors. All these ones are evidence to tell you that the Islamic finance generally is not meant for only Muslim. But let me also tell you that Islamic finance is also there in the Bible, especially Old Testament and some other Abrahamic.
Can we all hear him? I think we've lost, he has network issue. If you can just wait for a while. So while probably waiting for him, I don't know if Ms. Kenny will be allowed to talk here from Chapel Hill. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Okay, welcome, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
So, any remarks on the topic delivered, ma'am?
So I would just like to say a very big thank you to Madam Machido for espousing on the principles of an Ijara issuance. We've all worked together on both Oshun. Chapel Hill was a joint issuing house at that time. And we've also worked on the family homes that himself and Malam Bintube spoke about this morning. So I think it's important that hopefully you will be able to continue to provide this training and this knowledge gap building that we all need to be able to understand Sukuk products more in depth. So I think it's been a worthwhile morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for thank you very much, ma'am, for your remarks. I think part of our plan is we want to make this a monthly series in such a way that at least once in a month to be having a particular contract of the Islamic finance where we'll discuss it and how practicable it is in solving some basic economic issues, both for individual and corporate and even government agencies. Thank you very much, ma'am. So I think Mala Ataru is back. Mala Ataru, we just listened to the remarks from Mrs. Kenny Awoden from Chapel Hill. I don't know if you can speak to that, sir. Mala Ataru, you're back, sir.
Yes, I'm back. Sorry about the network issue. What is the question from Kemi?
So she only appreciates our presence and she advised if this can be a recurring program.
Of course, it will be provided. It is already in our Facebook and some other things, including the document presentation is something that Ismaila you can handle by sharing with whoever actually give their interest to have the document through the email.
So there is another question.
Thank you.
So there is a question here where it says what is the difference between diminution musharaka and Ijara?
Okay, with respect to the Ijara, extensively I explained it. Diminution musharaka, the basic contract that has been used actually for the musharaka is joint ownership of the assets, and everybody will own that particular asset the way they contributed in the assets. However, because the customer who actually go into the legal owner of the asset together with the bank own a certain percentage of the
So while waiting for him on the diminishing musharaka and Ijara, technically for musharaka is more of an entity kind of a contract, and for the Ijara, which is the leasing. So in terms of technical difference, there are two different contracts entirely. So Mala Atari is back.
Mala, you are equally competent to explain. So I believe even if I do have network problem, you can fill the gap.
Yeah, so
Musharaka is joint venture. Ijara is lease. By joint venture, which is the main contract in this particular diminishing musharaka, the house jointly owned by the two parties. But however, like that of the co-ownership that I mentioned, I explained in the Ijara, it is similar, but the principles must also be there. If you are doing musharaka, for instance, and you agree that it is going to be musharaka, it has some principles that when you are going to sell a portion of your share to the other one, you have to look at the value of that particular portion at that material time that you are going to sell. You cannot predict this is how much I'm going to buy this portion, or this is the exact amount I'm going to pay, unlike if it is an Ijara. So they are similar, but they have actually some basic things that are different that has to be taken care of by the Islamic banks that are doing such. But usually they are doing Ijara instead of diminishing musharaka. But it is more easily explained to the customers if you explain them diminishing musharaka than just Ijara. Probably that is why it is popularly known as diminishing musharaka. Thank you.
Okay, sir. So there is a question here whereby the person is asking that can a corporate entity set up a debt issuance program for the issuance of debt instrument and include a sukuk as one of the debt instruments? So he's talking about if you have a program, then you now have a series whereby can you now do series in sukuk, whereby you can also do some series in bond, in conventional bond?
Actually, as long as the assets can be separated, clearly know these are the assets of the sukuk, while these are the assets of the conventional bond. Sharia-wise, there is no problem in putting the documentations together in a program. When you are going to do a series, then you do a series of sukuk separately and you do a series of bonds separately. But in a program, meaning a company wants to raise maybe 20 billion naira within 2 years. But the first one, they want to come for 10 billion. And the second one in the next 6 months or next year, they are going to come for another one. As far as the regulatory authorities are concerned, you are going to file your shelf prospectus that is going to take all the information needed with respect to the issuance and with respect to the organizations. But you have to also have supplementary prospectus that is going to talk about specifically that particular instrument, that series that you want to come and raise. So if you have a program in a shelf prospectus that combine the two together, there is no problem related to that, as long as in your series and in the assets you are going to create are going to be dedicated and also divisible project meant for the sukuk separate and another one meant for the conventional bond separate. There is no problem with that. And there are also globally some sukuk issued in Malaysia that are also have this combined together. Thank you.
So someone is asking us that you said the asset must be Sharia compliant. There is a situation whereby a sukuk is a future sukuk whereby it's going to build a hotel. So does that mean alcohol cannot be sold where the hotel becomes operational?
As long as you are going to raise sukuk, even though we are deviating more and more in sukuk, as long as you are going to issue sukuk, the assets that will be financed Sharia-wise must be Sharia compliant. If you know you are going to build breweries, if you know you are going to build casino, if you know you are going to build something that Sharia-wise is frowning at, then definitely that particular assets cannot be financed by the Sukuk proceeds. And even by the time, because of the governance structures that we have, especially here in Nigeria, by the time you file your application and you take it to SEC, and you SEC decided to take it to the Sharia board of the central bank, that actually will be shut down by the time it reaches there. They will not allow it. So that is the issue. It has to be Sharia compliant assets for it to be for the Sharia, for the Sukuk issuance. Thank you.
So this question is saying, what role can Ijara play as solution to environmental and climate issues?
Environmental and
climate issues.
Well, we know that if we are talking about fundraising in order to do some activities that are socially beneficial, environmentally beneficial, then Sukuk can also be there. We are witnessing the green Sukuk, just like the way they are doing green bond, that you are going to use the Sukuk proceed in order to do some things that are environmental, in order to finance some things that are environmentally and socially beneficial to the entire society, to the entire universe. For instance, it is being allowed, and we've been seeing the green Sukuk to finance some of course the solar items, which recently we have a private Sukuk for that aspect in order to finance solar panel privately. We also have some Sukuk that are doing some other things that are actually beneficial to the universe, to the entire environment. So it can be used anyhow, generally. Thank you.
So there is a question that says recently that the last FDN Sukuk, the 250 was listed on the exchange. So it's like he's looking at Nigerian economy with high annual inflation rate and insecurity. That is there a way the government and private sectors can issue short-term Sukuk as part to attract investors both locally and internationally?
Thank you so much for that question. Now, let me just start clarifying, because I've been having so many people asking questions. 6 months down the line, why is federal government just being listed? Now, I want to tell the audience here that sometimes there is Sharia issue in relation to after raising Sukuk. It is not allowed Sharia-wise for that Sukuk to start trading immediately until the Sukuk proceed is transformed or started to be transformed to an asset before it is allowed Sharia-wise to be traded. Because if you allow it to be traded when the money is stashed in the bank account, it's as good as you are trading on money which is Sharia-wise not allowed. So, but unless that particular money has been transformed and be given to contractor, and contractor move to site, that is when actually the tradability can start. And of course, specifically, Financial Regulations Advisory Council of Experts, the Sharia advisor of CBN, specifically mentioned it to Debt Management Office that you cannot list this particular instrument until you mobilize contractors and they move to site, they started work before you list it. And therefore, a Sharia issue in relation to that. However, in Nigeria, can we use a short-term instrument in order to issue Sukuk? Yes, we can do that. I always give example of NNPC. Now, currently today, we are having the NNPC as a limited company. They can, if we know that they always import the refined oil into the country, and they have a cycle of maybe 30 days, maybe 60 days, maybe maximum 90 days. They change, they rotate the cycle again. If by any chance NNPC wants funds in order to import this refined oil, it can easily come to the market and raise funds, and through either Murabaha or any other contracts, the proceeds will be utilized by the SPV or by the trustees to purchase this particular refined products in and import it and then give it to NNPC. And NNPC will put it through its channels within the period of a cycle of say 3 months, they will conclude. So we can really do that with respect to all that aspect. Likewise, even like Central Bank of Nigeria that has a lot of scattered assets all over the country, they can also use a head lease Ijara and then sublease that particular one. So meaning they can use their head office, they can use their offices in some other states in order to package it and give it to the SPV as a head lease, and then sublease it in a bit and pieces, short term, so that they can also provide the liquidity management instrument. That is actually what even the IILM is doing, taking the assets from the sovereign nation and have it for a longer period and then subdivide it in a sublease short term, and they are doing it, they are issuing it for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. So it is doable, it can be done, only that if there is political will attached to it. Thank you so much for that.
So there is a remark from Alhaji Mustafa Bitube, where he just gave us a clue that the Queen Alia Airport in Amman, Jordan, was actually financed by IDB and IFC side by side, using both Sukuk and conventional code at the same time. Then
evidencing that it can be done together with conventional finance.
Yes, sir. So there is a question where somebody is asking, can I create an Ijara for a consumable item?
I thought I already mentioned that anything that is consumable cannot be allowed for an Ijara because you consume it. And like we know, Ijara is usually belongs to the lessor until end of the transactions, even if it is going to be transferred legally to the lessee. So if it is consumable, what are you going to transfer back to the lessor? There is none. So Sharia-wise, anything that is consumable is not allowed. And I think I mentioned it in my presentation as well. Thank you.
This one is also saying, can a lessor sell all or part of lease property to a third party during an existing lease contract?
The asset, again, like I explained, belongs to somebody else. How can lessee, if it is lessee, cannot sell it? But if it is a lessor, the lessor can sell his property, can sell his stake in the lease contract. But of course, the lessee needs to also know about that. And in IOFI specifically, they mentioned this. That is what gives rise to even the tradability of the lease contract, lease Ijara instrument on the floor of the exchange. Because take it, you as an investor in federal government of Nigerian routes, you are part owner of this particular routes. So if you are trading your certificate on the floor of the NGX or FMGQ OTC, you are selling your stake. It's as good as you are selling your Ijara assets to another third party. So it's allowed in terms of doing that, but when it is going to affect the lessee, then you need to alert the lessee to know about that, or the new owner of the lessor that is coming should know about this particular transactions and should not actually break the transactions abruptly, for instance. But it's allowed for lessor to sell, but it's not allowed for lessee to sell his own stake without actually consent directly from the lessor. Thank you.
So there is a question from that there is a big misconception by the public that non-interest financial institutions actually charge interest for their products. That please, can one clarify this? How can one clarify this to a layman in a simple term?
Well, like I've started, it is not, if somebody said there is misconception, they are charging interest, you should understand what is interest Sharia-wise and what is not interest, what is profit. As we know, with respect to the interest is contractual agreement increment on the loan provided or on exchange of certain fungible items or on deferment of a debt, for instance. These are all things that will give you an idea of what exactly is interest. So if we heard about this, and of course, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has already mentioned that they are saying interest is also equal to the trading, but Allah is saying, no, they are not equal. How can you say? Because Allah has permitted this and prohibited this. So definitely, not only now, many people are having that misconceptions long ago since the advent of Islam. But however, we should know that when it comes to trading is different with the interest. The interest, to give you a simple example, is I give you 100 naira. When you are going to pay me 100 naira, pay 100 naira plus 10 naira attached to it. If we agree contractually, that is interest. But if I say I'm going to take 100 naira that I own and I'm going to the market and I'm going to buy orange, I'll come out and sell this orange to you at 110 naira. Sharia-wise is trading. There is no problem in that. At the end of the transactions, what I supposed to have earned in interest transactions, I'm also earning it in Sharia compliance structure. They are two different things. This one is called profit. The other one is called interest Sharia-wise. So I think there is a lot of awareness we are trying to create with respect to all this because of the questions people are saying and these misconceptions. But I believe, inshallah, part of our webinars, we are going to come with the principles of Islamic finance, where we are going to spell out specifically issues to do with interest, issue to do with garar, which is an uncertainty, gambling, and some other prohibitive elements in the entire Islamic banking and finance. We will come with it, one of these, our webinars, by God's grace, so that it can enlighten more people because of this kind of questions that are coming up always. Thank you.
Maybe the last one, yes, sir. That can you execute the deed of gift or sale agreement at the same time? At the same time, parties are executing the Ijara agreement.
No, it's not allowed to do that. You are only allowed to execute the Ijara agreement. You can keep whatever the sales agreement you have or the deed of gift you have aside as a template that will be executed after this particular document has been, this particular transactions of Ijara is being taken care of. So you cannot execute them together by Sharia standards. Thank you.
Some people have been raising up their hand. Daniel Kokonji, can you unmute if you want to talk?
Hello, Daniel. You are muted.
So let me give it to Diko Abdullahi. Mr. Diko, sir.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
My question is on the book that is ongoing in the different parts of the country. Hello?
Okay, yeah, we can hear you, sir.
What happens, like Skook is supposed to be specific on a project that has to be executed, different from a bond, for example. What happens when there is some deviation? How does, I mean, who is in charge of knowing that the deviation and correcting it? How does one report such deviation if it occurs, and to whom does it happen? Because essentially, there are road projects that are under Skook that are being executed. And one will want to know how to go about, even though as a private individual, could be part of the execution if there is quite obvious deviation like I wanted to talk about. So how does one raise such issues as an individual that is not necessarily part of the whole system of, I mean, the contract is between the federal government, agents and others. So how does a private individual go in and do that when there is obvious deviation from the specifics of the scope? Who is the regulator? How does one get involved?
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Abdullahi. I do understand your question clearly. And like I mentioned, and that is why I took a lot of adequate time to explain how the federal government of Nigerian Sukuk was structured. And specifically, we see all the relevant stakeholders attached to the structure and the enhancement provided. However, we should understand that when there is a road that has been taken that is to be constructed, and the Federal Ministry of Works and Housing happens to be the agent to construct that particular road through their contractors, they have the procedures they are doing for their tender and other things, and they've already done it and selected the contractors. Apart from that, we have enhancement, how the trustees are also there on behalf of the investors for them to make sure that whatever is supposed to be provided in terms of the quality of the project, as well as the size of the project, must be provided. The trustees are there. We have, I know, the FBM Quest trustees, we have the FL trustees, we have the STL trustees. They are all part of the trustees of the federal government of Nigeria. So if that is the case, being representative of the investors, if you see anything that is away from what is supposed to be done, you can of course write to the trustees, but know that the trustees have already appointed competent project managers that are consistently going to each side of the project, and they've been giving them consistently reports on periodic basis. And they are using this particular report to either engage Federal Ministry of Works and Housing or to engage the Central Bank of Nigeria with respect to all the concern that has been raised by the project manager. If you think there is another concern that has not been taken care of, you can still write to either of these particular trustees, and I believe they will take care of it. I know that whenever we are going to have the next sukuk to be presented, the Sharia advisors usually will ask for the overview of the previous sukuk, so that they will make sure that is there any Sharia issue with respect to the one that is going on that we need to rectify before we go for the new one. If there is, they will ask for how it's supposed to be rectified. If no, then we can go for the fresh one. So if you do have any concern, please do not hesitate to write to the trustees, and trustees will take it up to the relevant authorities that are supposed to be taking care of for to right whatever wrong you think are there, if at least you know the basis or the specifications attached to the contract. Thank you so much, Diko Abdullahi, for that, your contribution. Ismail, you are muted.
Okay, Mr. Muiwa.
Hello, sir.
Yes, Muiwa.
Good afternoon, sir.
Afternoon, Muiwa.
I really want to thank you for this exposition. It's quite educative. I think a lot of us out here don't seem to understand what non-interest banking is, but with this session, I get to understand so much benefit that we actually stand to get, especially as we relate this to the teeming population of the non-Muslims. So I want to say thank you very much, sir, for this.
Thank you so much, Muiwa Ajibode. Thank you.
So I don't know, let me give Malam Samaila Musa Umar. Malam Samaila Musa Umar the mic to talk. And maybe one other person. Malam Samaila. Then let me see. Alamin Idris.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum assalam, Alamin.
Now, and thank you so much for the amazing exposure. Alhamdulillah. So I have a question. We sell pay-go products. So I'm thinking, is it applicable to Ijara? Payment that you, let's say you are getting a solar panel and an entire solar system from us, and you are paying a monthly subscription just to lease to own. Can we convert that to Ijara by making it 2 contracts, one at the beginning for the rent and the end for ownership? And also, how do we, so you are, for a product like this, you are usually paying for the product, not the service. So what that means is at the end of the month, if you don't make payments, your lights go off. And when you make payment, let's say by the 10th of, you are going to be getting your light for the next 20 days, not the next 30 days. So it's not for the light, but for the product itself. So when you fail to pay for a week or 2, you are going to be losing out for that light for the week or 2. You won't be able to use the product, although it will still be in your possession. And after a while, if it doesn't, if you don't make payment and you run out of credit for a while, maybe a month or 2, then we'll have to repossess the product and then take ownership of it. So I'm thinking, is that Sharia compliant one, or can we make it Sharia compliant by making it just 2 products? And can that payback mechanism still be applicable for a product like this? Jazakallah.
Thank you so much, Alamin Idris. Now, with respect to the existing product that you have, which based on this particular explanation of Ijara, now you understand that what you are doing is hire purchase. Can we actually convert that you hire purchase in order to make it Sharia compliant as Ijara? Yes. And depending on some other features of your product that we need to understand the features before we tell you these features are supposed to be there or these features are not supposed to be there. So far, the feature that you mentioned is that you need to separate the 2 contracts. The Ijara contract separate. After you finish the Ijara contract, then you do the sales or you do the deed of gift, whatever you want to do in order to transfer the legal ownership. That is how to make it. But like I mentioned to you, it may not be the only thing. The entire content of the agreement needs to be reviewed by a competent Sharia advisor, or at least competent person scholar that can tell you this is Sharia issues or there is no Sharia issue. So I'll advise for you actually to subject your documents to any Sharia advisor that you think that is competent enough to tell you what is the Ijara and how Ijara works. That is what I will mention to you. With respect to the servicing, that if somebody refused to pay, but you already have that product under him. However, you mentioned to him that I'm going to give you my house for you to use, but I'm expecting you every month you are going to pay me, for instance, 50,000 naira. And that 50,000 naira is to take you for the entire month. However, if you refuse to pay me 50,000 naira, already the house is still under you, but I'm going to lock some of the rooms that you are not going to have access to, but you are going to own the asset is still under your custody until you pay. Then I'll open the doors for you to utilize for only the residual days within that month. You continue doing that. As long as you all agree together with the lessee who is going to take it, I said, yes, I agree with respect to that. The Sharia is actually okay with respect to your negotiation with respect to this. However, there is need for equity and justice in whatever you are doing together with your customers that you're supposed to. We're supposed to have a human face in our transactions that we are doing. So I believe it's something based on all what we are discussing today. You look at your document clearly and see what exactly do you need to refine in order to make it completely Sharia compliant. I will advise again for you to subject it to more competent hands that will review it and tell you his opinion with respect to that. Thank you so much, Idris, for that, and well done for your product.
Because of time, maybe if you can accommodate just this particular question. There is this question that says, is in the Ijara school structure, does the guarantor have to be engaged in a Sharia compliant business? I.e., can a commercial bank be a guarantor in an Ijara transaction?
Okay, thank you so much for that question. However, I've already mentioned it, that when you are going to have any Ijara asset, there is need for the lessor to make sure that based on risk mitigating to ensure the asset. However, ensuring that asset, it is always better if you can get Takaful, which is the Sharia compliant insurance companies that we have at the moment here in Nigeria. So far, we have about 4 of them that are operating under the license of NICOM to provide the Takaful services as Takaful operators. So we have them available. However, prior to that, there is no harm if there is no availability of Takaful, or they cannot be able to cover that particular asset, then there is no harm for you to get the conventional insurance company to cover it if it is very necessary for you to do that. Because I know, especially some of the fund managers that were here, that were operating before this particular Takaful companies being issued their license, such as the Lotus Capital, they had to use, of course, the conventional insurance companies to cover up their vehicles and some other things, because it is become actually darura, which is necessity due to lack of the insurance companies that can provide the services they want. But now that we have it, we have to make sure that we look at exactly the insurance companies that are Sharia compliant, unless if they cannot cover this kind of assets. Thank you so much for that question again.
So, sir, thank you very much. I think due to time, I believe is prayer time in Nigeria, and for some people who are actually joining us from outside, I believe 2 hours is enough for us, for people to have actually spared. We understand we are within a working hour, and we appreciate everyone that have actually joined this particular webinar. It is actually a high opener for us that we need to also do more in increasing the awareness in terms of non-interest financing. So thank you, the NDC of 117 Capital, Malam Atairu Machido, for this detailed explanation on the concept of Ijara. And so in giving the closing remark, I would like to invite our head of portfolio, Malam Fari Lawal, to give a closing remark. Yes.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We are grateful for your attendance and the interest you showed, the number of questions we have seen raised, the discussions that have gone we saw during the session, and we hope that next month and subsequent months, when we issue our invites, you will still patronize us and be part of the process. The main idea is for us to give back to the sector, that is non-interest sector, what we from the gains we had. And what is that? Knowledge. What is that? Capacity. What is that? Networking. What is that? Awareness. Thank you very much. Hope to see you next month. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you very much, sir. For those that have been asking if the recording will be available, yes, we have the recording saved. And in case you also want to check the recording, to be on our Facebook, you can check 117 Capital Limited. For the presentation slide, it will also be made available. And 117 Capital, we do organize trainings both within and outside the country. And over the time, we've organized some selected restricted trainings, both hybrid, it could be physical or virtual, depending on the compatibility that you think you can work with. It could also be for selected group of people or organizations. So you can send us email through info@117 Capital Limited, and we'll be able to address your concern. So thank you everyone for joining us for this particular webinar session. It is the first in the series of webinars that we'll be organizing. So at the beginning, I did not introduce myself. My name is Rufai Ismail Olayinka, and I'm also the head financial advisory of 117 Capital Limited. Like I said, 117, we strictly do non-interest investment in which we have different portfolios that will actually invest in. We also finance businesses depending on how viable it is. So thank you very much, everyone. We hope to see you next month, whereby we'll be organizing the series 2 and probably in discussing another very important topic of Islamic finance. Thank you very much. See you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi.